All right, let's dive in. Today we're heading to Scotland.
Oh, Scotland.
Yeah, using the Love Scotland newsletter as our guide. It's packed with travel tips
Fool.
and cultural insights. So we'll be unearthing some fascinating bits about a unique Scottish food tradition. And then we'll delve into Hogmanay, their iconic New Year celebration.
Sounds fun. This newsletter really is a treasure trove for anyone wanting to experience Scotland authentically.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Hey, let's start with something that caught my eye, Toad in the Hole.
Toad in the Hole.
I know, right? What a name. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah. It's a classic British dish, although its origins are a bit debated. The newsletter mentions a food historian, Max Miller, who has this video exploring its history, and he even dug up a 19th century recipe.
A 19th century recipe. Wow. Just imagine the stories that dish could tell. Now, I'm all for culinary adventures, but I have to ask, would you try a 19th century version of Toad in the Hole?
Well, it certainly piques my curiosity thinking about the ingredients available then and how food preparation has evolved. It would be like a culinary time capsule.
Totally. All right, let's shift gears from historical eats to a celebration that spans centuries. Hogmanay.
Hogmanay.
The newsletter really emphasizes how important this is in Scotland.
Yeah, it's way more than just a New Year's Eve party. Hogmanay is deeply ingrained in Scottish culture, stretching over 3 days with all these unique customs and rituals.
The newsletter describes it as a time of jubilation, camaraderie, and unique celebrations. Makes you want to grab a kilt and join the party, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So what are some of the traditions that make Hogmanay so special?
Well, first footing is a big one. That's where you try to be the first person to cross the threshold of a friend or neighbor's home after midnight, bringing symbolic gifts for good luck in the new year. And then there are fire festivals, like the one in Stonehaven, where people parade through the streets swinging balls of fire.
Fire festivals. That sounds intense.
Oh, it's a spectacle for sure, rooted in ancient traditions believed to cleanse and purify for the new year. You know, these customs add another layer to the celebration, making it more than just a countdown to midnight.
It sounds like Hogmanay is a truly immersive cultural experience.
It is.
And speaking of planning ahead, the newsletter recommends booking Scotland experiences for 2024 in advance, especially if you want to be a part of Hogmanay. Have you ever been to Scotland?
I haven't, but it's definitely at the top of my travel list, especially after reading about Hogmanay. How about you? Have you experienced it firsthand?
Not yet, but I'm feeling inspired after this deep dive. And it seems like we're not alone. The newsletter also highlights the growing popularity of Scotch whiskey distillery experiences.
Okay.
They even feature a section called Cooey, which I have to admit I find incredibly endearing.
Yeah.
What makes Cooey so special in the world of Scotch whiskey?
Cooey translates to little dram in Scotch. It's used to describe a small taste of whiskey. It kind of perfectly captures the essence of the distillery experience.
So it's not just about the whiskey itself,
Right.
but the experience of savoring it.
Exactly. It's about appreciating the craftsmanship, the history, and the unique flavors that each distillery offers.
Yeah.
It's a way to connect with Scottish heritage on a deeper level.
That's really cool. It seems like Cooey embodies this idea of slow travel and mindful appreciation, something that resonates with me for sure. Okay, before we get too carried away with whiskey dreams, let's unpack some other gems from the newsletter. It mentions something about the Scottish wildcat and challenges facing its conservation.
Right. They even share a social media post asking if anyone has been lucky enough to spot one in the wild. They're incredibly rare and elusive, making sightings a truly special event.
I had no idea they were so rare. Why are they facing such challenges?
Well, habitat loss, hybridization with domestic cats, and disease are some of the major threats. The newsletter subtly raises the question of how to balance tourism with conservation efforts to protect this iconic species.
It's a delicate balance indeed.
Absolutely. Responsible tourism is key to ensuring the survival of these magnificent creatures. You know, it's about being mindful of their habitat, minimizing our impact, and supporting initiatives that protect their future.
That's an important reminder for all of us, wherever our travels take us. Now let's switch gears again and talk about some of the other exciting things this newsletter touches on, like the 22 must-try Scottish foods and drinks.
Oh, from classic dishes like haggis to regional specialties, the newsletter provides a tantalizing glimpse into Scotland's culinary landscape.
The title alone has me curious. Have you ever tried haggis?
I have, and it's definitely an experience. It's not for everyone, but it's a traditional dish that represents Scottish culinary heritage.
I'm always up for trying new things, especially when they're steeped in tradition. I'm starting to feel a serious urge to book that trip to Scotland. What else does the newsletter highlight?
Well, there's a section called Around the Web
Uh-huh.
that curates articles about various aspects of Scotland. For instance, there's one suggesting the Scottish Highlands as a winter golf destination.
Wait, winter golf in the Highlands? That sounds incredibly adventurous, especially with those unpredictable Scottish weather conditions.
Right. It definitely challenges the conventional image of a sunny golf getaway.
Yeah.
And for fans of the Outlander series, there's an article highlighting bars and restaurants near filming locations.
Now that's something I can get behind. Outlander has brought Scottish landscapes and history to life for so many people.
It's a testament to the power of storytelling and its ability to spark interest in exploring new places. Speaking of exploration, the newsletter also mentions Edinburgh's Christmas market, which was ranked the most beautiful in Europe for 2024.
Oh, wow, that sounds magical.
And it seems like Edinburgh is a city that truly embraces its seasons.
Right.
There's even an article about how it's one of the UK cities most likely to see snow.
So picture this. Strolling through a snow-dusted Christmas market in Edinburgh, sipping hot mulled wine. Okay, now I'm really feeling that wanderlust.
The newsletter also highlights Perth, known as the Gateway to the Highlands, and lists the top 10 places to visit there.
This is all starting to feel like a well-planned itinerary. I love how the newsletter provides a mix of practical tips and inspiring ideas.
It's like a roadmap for a fulfilling Scottish experience, catering to various interests and travel styles.
Absolutely. It even mentions a new travel trivia game called Travel Quizzer, with a sample question about the location of Kylemore Abbey. Do you happen to know the answer?
I'm afraid I'll have to plead ignorance on that one, but it sounds like a fun way to test our travel knowledge.
Definitely. And maybe even spark some inspiration for future trips. But speaking of inspiration, the newsletter ends with a list of top experiences in Scotland that are likely to sell out in 2024. It's like they're giving you a friendly nudge to start planning that dream trip.
Exactly. It's all about capturing that sense of urgency and encouraging people to seize the moment.
Well, consider me nudged. This deep dive has certainly sparked my interest in Scotland. What does this all mean for you, our intrepid listener? If you've ever been even remotely curious about Scotland, this newsletter is a fantastic starting point.
It's packed with information, inspiration, and even a little bit of that quirky Scottish humor.
And it reminds us that travel is more than just ticking off destinations. It's about immersing yourself in a culture, embracing the unexpected, and maybe even trying a dish called toad in the hole.
Who knows? You might even be lucky enough to spot a Scottish wildcat.
On that note, we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive into Love Scotland. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the fascinating world of Scottish culture and travel.
So before the break, we were talking about responsible tourism and how important that is.
Yeah, it's a big one for me too. It's really easy to get caught up in the excitement of travel and totally forget about the impact we have
I know, right?
on the places we visit.
The newsletter weaves this theme in throughout, encouraging people to be more thoughtful about exploring Scotland.
It really makes you stop and think about how to be more mindful travelers.
Oh,
Okay, so before the break, we were about to unpack the 22 must-try Scottish foods and drinks the newsletter mentions.
Oh, yes. It's such a cool list. It really shows off the diversity of Scottish food, from super traditional fare to new modern innovations.
They don't list them all, but I'm curious, what are some of the standout highlights for you?
Well, beyond the classics like haggis, there's Cullen skink, which is this creamy smoked haddock soup that's like a national treasure.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
They also talk about cranachan,
Cranachan?
which is a dessert made with whipped cream, toasted oats, honey, and raspberries. It really showcases how fresh, local ingredients are so central to Scottish food.
I love how food can be a window into a culture's history and traditions.
Oh.
Speaking of tradition, the newsletter also talks about the resurgence of traditional Scottish crafts.
Yes.
It seems like there's a growing appreciation for handmade goods, with all these artisans reviving ancient techniques and creating beautiful, unique pieces.
It's incredible, isn't it?
This reminds me of how important it is to support local artisans to help keep these traditions alive.
For sure. It's a way to connect with the culture in such a real way and help preserve these valuable skills.
Okay, so we've covered food, whiskey, wildlife, and even talked a bit about responsible tourism. What other gems does this newsletter hold?
Well, remember the Around the Web section?
Yeah.
There's a super interesting article about the history of Scottish castles, talking about their architecture and all the stories they hold.
Oh, castles are just iconic when it comes to Scotland.
They are.
I can picture myself exploring those ancient walls, feeling the weight of history around me.
This article takes it a step further,
Oh,
talking about how castles played a strategic part in Scottish history, all the power struggles they've seen.
fascinating. It's incredible how history is woven into the fabric of Scotland. Okay, what else did you find in Around the Web?
There's this piece about the best spots to see the northern lights in Scotland, which is something I never would have thought of.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I always think of places like Iceland or Norway when it comes to the Northern Lights.
It turns out some areas in Scotland, especially in the north, have amazing viewing opportunities during the winter months.
Just imagine that.
Mhm.
The Northern Lights against a backdrop of those rugged Scottish landscapes. That would be incredible.
This article even offers tips on how to see them,
Oh, nice.
like checking the aurora forecast and finding spots with no light pollution.
So it's not just luck, there's strategy involved.
Right. You need to plan and be prepared, but the payoff is so worth it. Speaking of planning, the newsletter has a section on top travel experiences in Scotland likely to sell out in 2024.
Yeah, that friendly nudge to book those experiences in advance.
It highlights how important it is to be organized, especially if you really want to experience certain things or stay in specific places.
This newsletter really does cover all the bases, from practical tips to inspiring stories.
It captures what makes Scotland so special and gives you a roadmap for a memorable trip.
After this deep dive, I'm definitely adding Scotland to my bucket list.
Me too.
This newsletter makes me excited about all the possibilities. It makes me want to experience Scotland for myself.
It's awesome how a carefully crafted collection of information can spark our wanderlust and make us consider new adventures.
It shows the power of good storytelling and how important it is to explore different perspectives.
For sure. And this newsletter shows how travel content can go beyond the superficial and get to the heart of a destination.
Exactly. It's not just about ticking off tourist spots. It's about understanding the culture,
Right.
appreciating the history, and embracing those special things that make Scotland, well, Scotland.
And we're back for our final deep dive into Scotland.
With our trusty Love Scotland newsletter.
Exactly. It's been quite the journey.
It has.
We've explored everything from traditional foods and quirky whiskey terms
Right.
to the magic of Hogmanay and even the challenges of protecting Scotland's natural wonders.
It's been really cool.
This newsletter really has shown me just how much depth and richness there is to Scottish culture. Those Hogmanay traditions, especially the fire festivals, sound incredible.
Oh, yeah, they're amazing. It's so cool how these ancient customs are still so alive,
Right.
connecting people with their history in such a powerful way.
It makes you think about how traditions shape our own lives and who we are.
It does. What stood out to you the most from our deep dive?
I think it was the focus on responsible tourism.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good reminder that we have a duty to protect the places we travel to and make sure they're still amazing for future generations.
The newsletter definitely encourages that kind of mindful approach.
Totally.
It's about engaging with Scotland's culture and its environment in a way that minimizes our impact.
Right. It's about being more than just a tourist.
For sure.
It's about being a respectful visitor who's eager to learn and appreciate the place.
Yes. It's about immersing yourself in the local culture, supporting their businesses,
Yeah.
and leaving things better than you found them.
As we wrap up this final part,
Mm-hmm.
what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
I think it's that travel is so much more than just checking places off a list.
Right.
It's about those authentic experiences.
Yeah.
Connecting with the heart and soul of a place.
Absolutely.
And really expanding how we see the world.
Well said. And if Scotland wasn't on your radar before, I hope this deep dive has changed that.
Me too.
Whether you're into the history, the landscapes, the whiskey, or just the people, Scotland has something for everyone.
And as you go about your day, we want to leave you with this. If you could experience any Scottish tradition firsthand, what would it be?
Would you brave those chilly waters for a Hogmanay swim or maybe try a sealet dance? Let us know. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into all things Scotland.
Until next time.